All right. Let's get cracking.
Let's do this. This is exciting.
Very exciting. Okay. Drum roll, please.
Here we are. We made it.
Here we are.
We've arrived.
We are here. For all you watching at home right now, welcome. For those of you who are not watching at home, but listening to this for the first time, whether it's in your car, your office, the bathroom, wherever is most comfortable for you, welcome to the very first inaugural episode of the podcast, Move to Austin. I am your host, Stephen Pivac, broker with Pivac Properties and Compass Real Estate, and I've got my cohort in crime with me, Mr. Matt Morper.
I'm Matt Morper. Nice to see all you out there. I'm an agent with Pivac Properties and Compass, also here in Austin, Texas, and we're excited to start this this new chapter.
Very much so, and it's so this is something we've thought about a lot with as far as creating a podcast, and it didn't come about because we just wanted to do a podcast. It came about because over the years we as real estate professionals have worked with so many people relocating to the Austin area. One of the biggest questions we get, or one of the biggest, I don't know what way to put it, not just questions, but the biggest asks is, when you're relocating here, what do you do besides just help somebody find a house? And these are questions that are coming from, not potentially clients, but people who already live here who are like, how hard can it be, or what does it entail? And usually the answer is it's hard if you're doing it right.
We've had to learn on the fly over, several years of doing this, and as you all know, Austin, Texas is on the map as a huge destination in the country. So we learned on the fly, but now that we're here and we've had 10, 15 years experience doing it, we've learned a couple things along the way.
Absolutely. And so, when somebody's relocating from one market to another, the obvious things are, where do you want to live? And so these days in 2020, it's easy to hop on websites like Realtor.com, Redfin, Zillow,
Not
whatever.
the most reliable information out there, but
it's reliable enough when you're first starting to look. When it comes down to brass knuckles, it's like, you want to get a little more detail. But that's usually where people go. And in a lot of ways, it's not hard to look online and find a quote-unquote house or condo or property, even an apartment that you think would work for you.
Yeah.
That's not even 1/10 of the process.
No.
I mean,
that's the easy part.
Yeah, and truly, in a lot of ways, that's the easy part, is just going online and looking for stuff. So the real nuts and bolts is when people try to ask questions like, what neighborhood should I be looking at?
Yeah.
What zip code should I be looking in?
Yeah.
What's my commute going to be like if I work at Dell versus working at AMD in South Austin? And looking at the map may tell you one thing, but you don't know anything about traffic here.
No.
And so you have a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns.
Because the pictures on Zillow are beautiful pictures of I'm sure, a beautiful property. But it doesn't show the neighbors, it doesn't show the neighborhood, it doesn't show the community, what the amenities are like surrounding that property. So there's so many things that factor into it, making a decision, relocating across the country, and pulling the trigger on a property besides the property itself. So
Right. And going and kind of piggybacking off that, when you're looking at pictures of a property online, you're looking at the best of something.
yes,
You're looking at something through a very fine-tooth lens.
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing what
or a fisheye lens.
Yeah, you're looking at what a salesperson wants you to see,
Yeah.
and so you're not necessarily getting all the information that you want to get out there. So over the years, working with our relocation clients, we've just come to see that we've met so many people that have relocated here too that had a realtor or a real estate company, or maybe didn't even know anybody when they first moved here. And the common comment was, we found a house, but boy, 6 months later, if I would have only known about this
Yes.
location, or if I would have only known that pediatrician was the best pediatrician to go to in the city, I would have bought over there.
Yeah.
And so after years of compiling all these questions, and I don't want to call them complaints, but just kind of wish they had
Hindsight's
known.
20/20.
Hindsight,
Yeah.
exactly. Hindsight's 20/20. We decided, okay, there has to be other ways that we can project a good source of information for people, regardless if they're working with us as a company or not, but just people in general. I kind of look at it like you're planning your honeymoon, okay? And go stay with me here. Stay with me here,
Cannot
okay?
wait.
Because
This will be good.
you and I are married. We planned honeymoons before.
Oh yeah.
Mine was longer ago than yours, but stay with me. So you're planning your honeymoon. There's a billion places you could go. Let's say you want to just stay within the hemisphere of the U.S. You can go to someplace in Mexico for the beach.
Yeah.
You can go to Colorado to go skiing in the wintertime. You can go
Sounds
fly a
beautiful.
little further to Hawaii. There's a ton of options. you go to their website, you talk to their people, they all sound really fantastic.
Yes.
But what you may not know is that when you get to a certain part of maybe Costa Rica, that's the rainy season.
Yes.
And that wasn't in the advertisement.
You're
And
not
that could
getting
screw
all
up
of the
your
data.
honeymoon.
Yes,
Exactly.
not getting all the data.
Or, you know, you may know not to go to a certain island because there's hurricanes that time of year, but maybe you also don't know that there's some kind of an economic issue going on there right
Or
now.
there's a sewage plant next door.
That's a big,
Yes.
you know, don't you hate it when that
Yeah,
happens?
that's
Sewage
rough.
plants next to
Yeah.
5-star resorts. My point is, you're only looking at it from a small lens, and a lot of times when you get there, you go, "Oh, if I'd have known that, I would have asked for the lake view
Mhm.
versus the standard view," or I would have said, "Oh, you know what? I would have stayed at the resort 2 doors down
Yeah.
because they have a bigger spa," whatever it
Yeah.
is. And
Or I
it's
didn't realize Lake Austin was a constant level lake and Lake Travis was not. I mean,
exactly. And so,
it's
so
insight.
you see my analogy?
It's
It
nice.
kind of
It
works,
worked.
doesn't
It
it?
did work,
Once you're
yes.
there, you're like, man, if I'd only known. But wouldn't it be great to have a third-party, non-biased resource you can go to and say, what is it? And you know what that's called in travel, by the way? TripAdvisor.com. There's a little plug for it. But no, truly, that's why that exists, so people can go to a third party to get information. And so, long story short, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's what we want to provide. It's for people who are considering moving to Austin, Texas, people who, this is a big one, who've recently moved to Austin, Texas, and are just kind of finding their way, as well as people who've lived here, like us, for years.
Yeah.
Maybe people who've lived here their whole life, to not only give them a source of real estate, if you will, but more than that, an idea of what it's like to live here, current events, things coming up. And so I guess the big why for why this podcast is occurring and why the episodes are going to come after this is we want to provide a resource to people out there that currently does not exist and hopefully will only get better and expand as time goes on. So
Yeah.
that's what we're here. If you're tuning in for the very first time, that's what you're going to get in this episode and as well as subsequent episodes after this. And sometimes when you might see a topic on the list, you may say, yeah, that one may not appeal to me, or that one may not be an actual nail in the head for what I'm looking for information right now. But we're also going to be doing things like, adding in special guests and things like that, which we'll go to later on in this podcast. But that's our why. So now you're probably asking, that's a good reason.
Who are
why,
these guys?
Yeah, why should we listen to you when there's a ton of great information out there? I can go listen to some other podcast that talks about cooking or something, I don't know. So,
Well, we've both been here for a while now.
Yep.
We've both relocated ourselves from
Uh-huh.
different parts of the country. Me from the Northwest, you from Louisiana.
the New Orleans,
so-
Louisiana.
So we've been there. We've been down that road. We've learned from those mistakes personally as consumers that are buying property. My first property that I bought here, same thing. Beautiful home, bad call in the community, right? So I've been down that road. We've also had hundreds of transactions from relocation clients all over the country. From Shabiria, my friends in Chicago, to the Bay Area, Seattle. So
Globally,
we've learned from what they've told us and taught us. So we've just been down that road, and we've had to deal with the trials and tribulations of figuring it out over the years. So I think that we bring that value and that information and that point of view that not all agents, because there's lots of agents here, right? There's lots of agents.
Oh,
in
well
Texas.
now, because the market's so high, there's an agent.
Yeah.
You can't swing a stick without hitting 10.
I think my
That's
dog
kinda
just
how
got
it
his
goes.
real estate license.
He did.
He did.
He did.
He did.
He did.
He'll be a broker in 4 years.
Gosh, that's a scary thought. But no, I think the most poignant thing you said is, yeah, there are a ton of quote unquote real estate professionals, which is a subjective term. But the biggest, I think value we bring to is we did relocate. Like
Yeah.
you said, you came from the Pacific Northwest. I come from the New Orleans area. Two opposite ends of the spectrum, geographically speaking, from the U.S. But we all came here for a reason or several reasons. And when we got here, at that time, I was transferring my broker's license from Louisiana to Texas, but I still actually had a local agent here help me, and she was fantastic. A good friend. We became very good friends. But when I got here, it was more of me saying, I'm moving here. I think I want to look in X area. And so she goes,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's go look.
So
over
we
there.
looked in
Yeah.
X area, and
Yeah.
the area was okay, but like everybody else, I was like, man, if I'd only known that neighborhood down there, the tax rate was like 0.5% lower, I'd be saving $250 more a month on my mortgage.
And that adds up.
We didn't have conversations like, do you have an idea of when you might be wanting to have kids? Well, it sounds personal. Well, it's kind of important when you're
Yes.
buying a house because school district's important. Preschools are important, those kinds of things. And while most people would be like, why would my realtor ask me that? Like, well, there's a difference between just buying a home and relocating.
Yes.
And so going through that process ourselves, you know, like when I moved here, it was just my wife and I. Now we have 4 kids.
Yeah, things have changed.
Under 9.
Things have
Exactly.
changed.
And so seeing all the information we've had to gather and decisions we've made as residents,
Yeah.
when I have somebody moving here from out of state or even out of the city, I mean, I just know there are so many questions to ask, and they go, wow, like that's pretty personal or intense. And at first we kind of joke about it, but then towards the end of the transaction, they're like, wow, like I'm
Yeah,
really
I
glad you
appreciate
brought
that.
that up
Well, that's
because
why
I
we-
would have overlooked it.
That's why we developed that 20-page buyer question.
Oh yeah,
because
it's meaty.
It's meaty, but it's meaty for a reason,
Uh-huh.
And it helps trim that fat, and really zero hyper focus in on what's important to our clients. You know, why are they moving here? What are they doing? Where are they working? How long is the commute? What's their religious affiliations? We can
Mhm.
figure out churches in certain areas. I mean, there's, like we keep harping on, it's not the property, it's the community. And so, yeah, we love that. So let's get a little touch on your background.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
we know
that's-
you're from Louisiana.
Yep.
We hear that Cajun.
See, that's the problem.
That's
See,
the problem. That's
I'm
the
from New
problem.
Orleans. New Orleanians, we're not Cajun, we're Creole. That's a whole other conversation. A whole
Well,
other
I'm a Yankee.
a
over
whole
here.
another. And you are a Yankee, but you're in the Pacific Northwest, so you're okay.
Yeah, we're chill.
So my background is interesting. So I've been selling and practicing real estate for 15 years.
Yeah.
My family has been involved in real estate for over 60 years. So I have a unique perspective of not just real estate in general, but how to do things right and how not to do things right. I was blessed in that I was raised in an environment where I saw firsthand how people should be treated from a small family business in a nice, fun area of New Orleans. And so when my wife and I picked up and moved to Austin,
Wait, it sounds like you had everything going for you there in Louisiana. Why didn't you just stay there?
well, things were great in Louisiana. My family is still in business there, and they do fantastic. If you're watching at home, hey guys, good to see you all. I'm the kind of guy where I kind of find it hard to stay still sometimes. And you know, one thing I learned about my grandpa later in life was that he was a go-getter, mover and a shaker, likes to do things outside the box. And we were looking at things on paper one day, and I said, you know what? I feel like Austin is a good place to raise a family, to expand this business that we have and start my own. It also helped that my wife's family lived here.
You did.
So that was helpful.
Great people. Great people.
So 15 years of selling real estate, been in Austin now for, oh gosh, it'll be 14 years this
Carry
summer.
the one.
That's right, exactly. It'll be 14 years this summer. And that was back when the market, before it really turned, it was still, the Great Recession as they call it, and it was a totally different market. But the common theme from back then to today is there was always a strong element of people relocating, myself included. And so through the ups and the downs, the changes, all the ebbs and flows in the real estate market, it's just been a constant in my personal business, in how I grew my brokerage for many years, and something that we've had great success in helping people. And it's not necessarily that I started out in mind, I'm going to be a relocation specialist. It's not, and I'm not that smart. Or that savvy. It really morphed into, this is what I'm doing. This is what I enjoy more than anything, is really helping people find their place here, because I had to do it myself. And it's fun.
Yeah, well,
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's almost like investigative. You're gathering
Right.
information, you're narrowing stuff down, you're trying to find that perfect fit for those clients. Yeah,
Mhm.
I completely agree with you on that.
And
Way fun.
to wrap us up, so I started my own brokerage in 2012.
Yeah.
By a lot of blessings and luck and hard work,
Yeah.
did well. And these last 6 months, we've actually partnered with Compass Real Estate out of New York, who is a force to be reckoned with. And one of the reasons we started to align with those guys is because of the resources they bring, not just for us, but really to, more importantly, our clients. One of the big things is with them that we use a lot is the Compass Coming Soon. It is the largest database of coming soon residential properties in the country. Over 20% of our coming soon listings sell before they even hit the market. So for our relocation clients,
It's huge.
they can see properties long before anybody else, and we have those transactions a lot. So
Yeah.
that kind of brings you to today, where I am in my business, leading our group here with Peabotch and with Compass, with great agents like my buddy here, Matt. And so, yeah, that's me. So a lot of personal connections and a personal history with real estate, but more than anything, and got the experience you need to do a good job, and I love it. It's my passion every day.
Yeah.
What about you, Mateo?
A little bit about me. I'm from Pacific Northwest. Wasn't born and raised, but I was there through high school and college. came down here in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
single and looking to have a good time here in Austin, Texas.
Like a lot of people.
Like a lot of us, all my best buddies in college got married that same summer, and so they were all hooked up, and I was not yet. So I came down to Austin because of the weather, culture. It was a good time. I visited it several times, like most people. They get hooked immediately.
And let me stop you there, because I don't want you to keep going, but
Yeah.
we have had more clients over
man.
the years that don't even have a job yet,
No.
and they move to Austin
It's
just
insane.
because I just like it
It's
there.
just so the people
And it's
are so
nuts.
nice.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
climate's so great.
So I didn't interrupt you, but like
No,
when you
but
said
that's
that,
serious.
that is so many people that
But
come
that's the
here.
reality. You come to visit and you end up staying. I mean,
Yeah.
you just call your agent at home and say, "Hey, can you put my house on the market?
Truly.
I'm not coming back."
Truly,
And that's not me being ridiculous.
that's legit. We've had that happen
yeah.
many times.
So a similar thing happened to me. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'd had some fun a couple weekends in a row, and I was like, if I'm going anywhere, it's Austin, Texas. And so I did. I set up shop here, and as luck would have it, I met my beautiful wife Morgan about 2 months into my stay here. And now we have two beautiful children, and like you said, things change over
Yeah.
time. At that time, we were renting for a while. Steven, my buddy here, actually sold us our first home, and that's how this all started. That's why we're sitting here together right now. Is connections. He
Mhm.
showed us, the process, and I became an agent underneath him in 2014. And since then, we've just been chugging along and gaining momentum and increasing our client base and just having a great time doing it and really trying to be advocates for our clients, whether they're listing or buying. And this new partnership with Compass has just been, it's been fantastic.
It's a game
because
changer for a
so
lot
much
of
of the
ways.
time we're both go-getters, and we want to touch everything that we're a part of and figure it out ourselves and try to do it ourselves. But at the end of the day, we only have so much time and bandwidth with he's got 20 kids, I have 2.
I have 4 beautiful children,
Yes.
all under the age of 9. My wife
Yeah.
Abigail is an absolute
No,
saint.
she's impressive. It's
Saint.
insanity. But so we only have so much time, and so we're like, man, this Compass approached us and said, we have this whole marketing team. We have all these assets you can use. It's right on brand with our brand.
Mhm.
Being,
Our values are very
our
aligned.
being luxury and tech forward, and using all the assets that we have at our disposal for our marketing. It's just been great. It's been a great transition, and we're really excited about it. And again, not just for ourselves, selfishly, but for our clients.
Oh, and that's the thing. Like, if you want to be selfish in this business,
No,
like
you're not.
you can quote unquote be successful, but if you're in it just for that reason, I know this sounds hokey. You're not gonna be successful, and you're not gonna like it.
No.
Like, I heard Steve Jobs, regardless of what you think of him, he made a good comment I heard years ago, and he was like, you have to love what you do,
Yeah.
because you have to work so hard at it to be successful. You'd be crazy to
If
do
you
it.
didn't like it, that'd
You'd be
the point.
insane.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work that hard and do something they don't love.
So yeah, for Washington State originally, it's so funny, I do an open house every single Sunday, and I will continue doing that to the
Mhm.
end of time, because I meet so many people relocating to Austin from, lately it's been New Jersey for some reason, New Jersey,
Hey,
Chicago,
walking here.
and it's probably because they had a cold winter.
Yeah, it's January. That's why they're here right now.
Yeah, it was 85 degrees, 83
Uh-huh.
degrees yesterday, so
Yeah.
it's a completely different climate, lifestyle, and people love it. And so I get that opportunity to go meet those people from different walks of life every single weekend, and it's a great time.
And you mentioned open houses. That's something that everybody on our team does on a regular basis. And obviously, we're working hard to sell our listings for our clients and get them top dollar. But a big part of it, too, goes back to what we enjoy, and that is we love talking to people who are just coming here. It's kind of like, the analogy you'll learn through all these podcasts, I love analogies.
He's a big analogy.
I'm an analogy guy. It's kind of like your freshman year in college if you went away to college.
Oh.
Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
You're all in this new place.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows anybody, so everybody's, regardless of personality or demographic or anything, everybody's open
Yeah.
to meeting people, learning things, and they're all fresh. That's what they call a freshman. You're a freshman.
Yeah, guess that makes sense.
So it's really a ton of fun when you can work with a family or a person that maybe they're not even going to buy something for 10 years. But if you can really kind of be that guide, even if it's something as simple as saying, hey, if you have this kind of a medical condition, this facility over here
Yeah.
just got a new group in last year and they're great. That kind of satisfaction is priceless. It's really cool.
To me, we're going analogies. I'll throw an analogy at you then. And
Ah.
we're going to go back and forth here. My analogy would be, it's like before you had kids, what Christmas meant to you, right? And then when you have kids, and it's like you relive Christmas again, you know, through their eyes. And so when you have relocation people coming in and they're excited about Austin and they're going to Zilker Park,
It's all over again.
It's all over again. So you're
Mhm.
living that, like, that initial excitement I had in 2012. Like, this place is awesome, I love it, and they're experiencing that right now, and so I get to join in on that feeling again, and talk about those things that brought me here in the first place. And it's like I get to relive that every time I talk to somebody new. Like, yeah, this, you need to check this place out. Oh, you haven't heard of this yet? Go there. Go here for dinner. Go here for coffee. You know, and those conversations are priceless. I love
Well,
those.
and when you're excited, you do a better job.
Oh, hell,
It's a great point. I just had a young couple relocate here from Tucson, Arizona, and they closed in their house last week, and they came down a few times in between trying to figure out, like you should. That's a
Yes.
topic for another episode.
Yes.
You should look more than one day. But they reminded me so much of my wife and I. They had only been married for about a year or so. They wanted to move here because they like the area, and they're entrepreneurs. They're going to start their own brewery and distillery, which is
I'm
very
pretty
cool.
excited about that.
I know you are. We all are. But it's so I had a lot of like emotional tie into that. And so I would be sending them texts or emails after hours or before hours. I would shoot them all kinds of information about other
Yeah.
places to go or
Things
knowing.
to see.
Yeah,
places,
or knowing they're starting a brewery. I'm like, hey, here's one that opened up 3 years ago. Go check them out. Talk to the bartender. Ask what they did. And they were very grateful, but I wasn't doing it to make them happy, to make them grateful. I was doing it because I genuinely was like, man, that's some information that if I were them,
Yeah.
I'd want to know, and it could make a major difference in what I'm doing. It made a difference in what they were buying.
Absolutely.
We ended up, it's funny, they were pre-approved for a good amount. We ended up getting them a house like half of what their pre-approval was, but because it was in a better location for their business, it had land to do stuff on. So from a selfish standpoint, I would have been more behooved selling them a bigger
Yeah,
house than
of
calling it a
course.
day, but I knew that's not what was best for them. And they're obviously very appreciative, and
Yeah.
we're going to be friends moving forward, the whole nine. So,
If they
that's
make
a
their own
really-
beer. We're gonna be great.
yes, they
friends.
will.
Yes.
And
great
and
friends.
spirits.
Ooh,
But no,
spirits.
you
Spirits.
but you made a good point though. Like as a real estate professional working with relocation clients, it is like I was wondering where you were going with that with Christmas. It's like
I
you
saw
do
that.
you
I saw
do
that look on
you
your face,
saw.
like
I'm like,
Christmas.
okay,
Wait,
land
where's
your
this going?
plane,
Where's it going?
land your plane. But no, I was like, that's a really good
No.
point because it
We
truly
live
does
it.
create that
Yeah.
excitement.
And I love it, and that's what's so great about Austin, Texas, and why it continues to be number one on, you know, most popular in the country.
Oh,
People
yeah.
I mean, was it 150 now still?
150 plus a day.
150 plus a day. I mean, those numbers are, it's kind of nuts.
And what's interesting is, you know, again, kind of going back to when I first started in Austin during the economic downturn, markets change, they shift.
Yeah.
There's going to be good, bad, ugly, everything in between. But boy, Austin, Texas, it's almost like every year I wake up and like, okay, when's it going to slow
Yeah,
down?
when
And
is-
it's just
yeah.
not. And that's because regardless of the quote unquote real estate industry,
Yeah.
everything else about Austin is still going to be there.
Yeah.
From the jobs that are created, from all the big companies coming in. I mean, you
Tax
saw
coming.
how much is Apple putting into their new facility? A billion?
1.1 billion.
That's with a B, like Dr. Evil would say, $1 billion. $1 billion.
Yeah.
Those are jobs. Those are people who are going to need not just a house, they're going to need professional services, they're going to need school information, they're going to need to buy a car. I mean, all
And
kinds
what that
of
does
things.
when someone like Apple invests in a community, then you're going to get other people joining
Absolutely.
that effort. And so in the next 5-10 years, that's going to snowball even more. And there'll be, I mean, we call it Silicon Hills because
Yeah.
there's so
This,
much tech.
this
here.
is the Silicon
Yeah.
Valley
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Texas,
Yeah.
and really
So-
of the South in many, many ways.
Yeah. So it's good. But yeah, so I mean, I like to go get back on topic of where I'm from and, you know.
Who are you? I don't
My name
know.
is Matt Morford.
Okay, good to meet you.
But yeah, so now it's 2020. I have 2 kids. We're in a completely different part of Austin than we originally set up shop in for different reasons. Because the school district's different, because the topography is different, and so even if you are an Austin resident that's been here for 10, 15 years, your life changes, your wants change. And that's where we are now.
Mhm.
We're neighbors. We live
Yep,
in the same
3 doors
community.
down.
So
He's following me.
I'm stalking him.
He's
Watch
following
watch
me.
back. But yeah, so I'm very excited about this podcast. I think there's a lot of value we can share with people based on our experiences.
This is going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
It's because again, for the last several years now, we sit in our brain trust and we try to and we talk about our clients and we talk about a lot of our personal life. We're friends outside of work, and we talk about how we can help people and be good stewards to our community and that type of thing. And when we started putting pen to paper on what's a good way to source usable information, quality. I mean, there's so much content out there now. You can Google sticks, and not only will you get the
5
things off a
billion,
tree, but you'll get the band and everything else. So there's quote unquote content, but it's not all good content.
No.
And so there's really no good one source to go to get pre-recorded, pre-made content for no matter where you are in your relocation process. Like I said, whether you're just thinking about it or whether you've been here for 2 years, our goal is to always have good information that's you will be able to take away at least 1 or 2 things from every episode we have. And that also ties into our website and everything else we do as well. Because, years from now, when we look back on this, we want this to really snowball into getting a good subscribership because again, people are going to continue to move here regardless of how the real estate market goes.
100%.
We want to be that just like TripAdvisor is that great third-party resource for funding a hotel. We want to be that third-party, non-biased resource for people to go to and learn about what it's like to move here, live here, and most importantly, thrive here in Austin, Texas.
100%.
And
So going forward, I mean, our next, few episodes, if you will, we'll box them up and package them a little nicer.
Sure.
We're shooting from the hip on this first one, but
you are. I've been thinking about this for a long time.
But I think it's going quite smoothly. But we'll have a title that will be.
Well, we're going to have a regular program.
Exactly.
And so let's talk about how it's going to look. So every episode, you'll have us basically picking a topic, and we've already got several things already written out that we're going to be talking about, and a lot of it is based on going back to former clients and saying, if you were relocating again, what would have been helpful to you? Like, what would have made your life easier, smoother for you? One of our first episodes we're going to be is called "You Don't Know What You Don't Know."
So true.
And it's going to be hitting on things like, if you don't know to ask about medical facilities, you're not going to. If you don't know to ask about tax rates for property in Texas,
that's a big one.
I mean,
that's a
you snowball. I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, because the tax rate can differ from 1.5 to 2 points, and so when you're talking about $1 million property, you can pay that note off in full, but till the day you die, that tax is still gonna be hitting, and it makes a huge difference.
I mean,
point makes a huge difference.
On a $500,000 property, you're talking about extra $600 a month just in taxes. And so, but again, to the topic of you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know that, depending on what neighborhood you're looking in, your tax rate could be 1% higher, and that could happen to your bills. And if your realtor, quite honestly, doesn't think to bring it up to you,
or doesn't know either,
or does, that's a big one too. Doesn't know, hasn't been doing it very long, doesn't know to ask that question. So, you don't know what you don't know is going to be a topic we're going to do. Communities within communities.
Yes. So I mean, Austin, Texas. You Google it and you see Zilker Park, and you get to see the Bat Bridge, and you get to see this cityscape and all that.
The same stuff you see on every Yahoo article.
South Congress, all the awesome stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love that stuff. But you don't get to know about the micro communities outside it. The Circle C, Steiner Ranch,
Davenport Village, Barton Creek.
There's hundreds.
Yeah, there are hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds, and each of them are
growing.
And each of them are, they're different in a lot of ways. Whether it's school district or proximity to hubs. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the differences. But if you don't know about them, then you're never going to find it. I mean, that's rule number one in marketing. If they don't know about you, they're not going to buy from you. So if you don't know about certain neighborhoods, you're
not going to see it.
You're never going to see it.
And as far as this podcast goes, I want to make this clear. This is not going to turn into we're going to pitch a neighborhood every time.
No.
Or we're going to pitch a builder. No, that's just real estate boring stuff. And it's really putting the cart before the horse, to use a Texas term. That's if you're looking at that stuff now, you've already screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, this podcast is about giving you broad level, feelings. Like, for example, if you are, we talk about politics even. Like, if you are left leaning, and you like holistic type medicine, whatever it is, like, this is a pod you may want to look at, because you're going to be around people who
over this pod.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not that we won't tell you everything, but getting to know you about what your wants and needs and desires are, we can be a good resource for you. And so in this podcast, we're going to be talking about a million different things, ranging from religion to politics to medicine to commute to what color do you like to see the sky at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Oh, traffic. Yeah, traffic. That could be a 5-part series,
yeah.
just because, and not for the reason you think. Everybody talks and complains about the traffic here in Austin.
We're going to get the data. We're going to bring the real
Yeah.
data on all the metro places across the country,
Yes.
and we're going to compare and contrast. the
And not
traffic.
just that, we'll also give you example drive times from different areas of the city
Yeah.
to central Austin, North Austin, West Austin. So again, you're looking at that map at home on Zillow,
Yeah.
and it looks close, but guess what? That's the difference between 45 minutes each
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
So,
depending on what time you leave.
mhm. Other topics: how to choose the best doctors, whether it be a pediatrician, an oncologist, depending whatever you're dealing with in your life at that time, and not just promoting a certain group over another, but really going over the things that we've seen make a big difference in where you're going to locate yourself permanently in a home or temporarily in an apartment. Another thing too we're going to have on is guests on a regular basis. And again, this isn't going to be like a typical real estate radio show where we're only going to have on inspectors and stagers.
No,
I mean,
that's boring.
well, don't say it's boring.
I mean, it's kind of boring.
I guess it's boring.
It's a little bit boring.
They're valuable depending on the topic we talk about. So we'll have some of those, but more than anything, this show is also about fun for us. So we're going to be all about the best information. We're going to have local politicians talking about different legislation that's going through on the city and the state level that can affect how you live here in Austin. We're going to have local celebrities coming in, talking about what they do and how they feel about living here in Austin. We're going to have people from all kinds of different professions. We'll have chiropractors coming in here.
Let's have a pit master that's, smoking
Oh
some brisket
yeah,
for 8
that's a
hours.
big
what
one.
I'm talking
We
to.
need to get Franklin over at Franklin Barbecue.
Yeah,
in here.
or
He would.
Or brewers. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's
Austin.
That's Austin.
That's and that's the thing. Regardless of what you're doing in your life right now, like there are certain aspects of once you live in Austin, even if you don't think you like barbecue, you're gonna find something.
That'll change.
When living in New Orleans, I hated Mexican food. You know why?
Yeah,
I lived in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's why. I got here and I was like, oh, so that's what Mexican
This
food
is
really
what it's
tastes
supposed to
like.
taste
That's
like,
really
yeah.
good.
It's a lot
So,
of flavor.
those kinds of things, those kinds of guests. We're going to have representatives here from ACL, Austin City Limits. A lot of you have probably heard of Austin City Limits, one of the biggest music festivals in the country. We're going to have those folks coming here and talking about the different bands that are coming in this year, or maybe some tips and tricks on where to park and best places to stay for a VRBO, those kinds of things to really it's not just save you time and energy, but save your guests pain and resources.
And we'll talk about West Austin and all the distilleries and all the wineries
Oh,
that are
yeah.
in Fredericksburg and Dripping Springs and all the wedding venues out there, because there's so much more to this area than just downtown Austin.
Mhm.
So we got a lot to cover, and like I said, we'll package these up and make them into perfect little succinct episodes. It's really easy for us on these microphones because we talk all day to just get sidetracked and just start talking and talking and talking and talking. So I'm excited to get into these episodes and to
Have good
good
information.
good information,
Good content.
good content, and bring some value to our listeners, and then they can share it with their friends and their family, and just keep on keeping on.
That's exactly right. So that's going to be pretty much it today for our first podcast. This one, we really just wanted to make it about introducing you to who we are personally, who we are professionally. The biggest reason for today's episode is the why we're doing this. And the reason that's so important is because once you hear the why, as in why we're sitting here, taking time out of our day to give good, resourceful information to people who are thinking of moving here, just moved here, or been here for years, is because you'll realize in future episodes, this is something to tune into. It's something where, like we said, our goal is that every listener is going to be able to pull away some nuggets of useful information they didn't have beforehand. And it's just another way that we can extend our reach to be a good, trustworthy, quality resource for our listeners out there, for people who are moving here. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off on our first one. How do you think it went, buddy?
I think it went fantastic. I'm pretty stoked about it.
It's a lot of fun. We're going to be doing these pretty regularly. We're also doing Facebook Live right now. So again, for all of you who are watching right now, thanks for tuning in. We'll also be posting. We're going to be video recording all of our podcasts too. So you can subscribe to our podcast in iTunes. The name of the podcast is Move To, which is the number 2,
Right, that's this one.
Austin. And you'll see our information on there. You can subscribe. You can also go to our website, peabotproperties.com, and you can check out our YouTube link there, our YouTube channels.
All of our open house live videos
yep.
on there.
Follow us on Instagram. We're getting really big on Instagram these days too. We're going to be putting these on stories, and we're going to be doing different surveys too. Because part of what these episodes are only going to get better because we're going to be reaching out to our listenership and asking what is a topic you either want to hear about now, or what we're going to get a lot of is what's a topic you would have loved to have heard about before you got here.
5 years ago.
Exactly. And that's what we're basically going to be basing this off of. So thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Again, this is Stephen Pivac, owner and broker with Pivac Properties and principal with Compass Real Estate.
Matt Morber, realtor with Pivac Properties and Compass Real Estate in beautiful Austin, Texas.
Gorgeous Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Excited to be here with you, finishing up our first podcast with Move to Austin. Y'all have a great day.
See you later. Sweet.